On this week's episode of the Superhero Show, we'll find out if Kara can be saved, or if Clark has to murder her on the season finale of My Adventures with Superman, if second and third episodes of Kite Man and Hit Monkey deliver better on their premises, and if second and third episodes of Kite Man and Hit Monkey deliver worse on their promises. Not short show today. All of that and more on an all-new episode of the Superhero Show. Hello, nerds, and welcome to the Superhero Show, the only podcast on the internet that covers every single live-action and animated TV show based on a comic book that we want to. If we choose to do it, we will. If we choose to not, that's something that you're going to have to deal with. Tonight, we're not going to be able to deal with all of them because my dearest friend, top 10? He's not cracking the top 8 in the MySpace days, let's say that. That means he could be number 9 or 10. We'll say top 50 for sure. Mike had a medical emergency. He had his nipples switched. He took one off and put it where the other one was. Cassie, the typical host, is in San Diego, of course, doing Comic-Con for us, hosting this big panel about Superhero Show that we were not invited to. So I had no choice but to invite, I would say, the main character of the podcast movie of the year.
Probably, yeah.
The treasure buried in that chest. The gem, the jewel, the royal crown review, the cherry poppin' daddy, the big bad voodoo daddy himself. It's Greg.
It's me. Remember how that band Cherry Poppin' Daddies was around and you just said it.
Yeah.
He just said it, even though it was awful.
Like your mom would say, "Who are you going to see tonight?" And you'd have to say Cherry Poppin' Daddies. And she'd say, "For the 400th time?" And I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I love them. They're my life."
Not really cherry popping anymore.
No.
Wow, what an awful phrase. I'm glad we started with that, Ryan. I'm glad we started with that right off the top.
What is worse about it? The cherry popping of it all or the daddy of it all?
The first part.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, the second part really just is kind of like a stark underline of how terrible the whole thing is.
Because you'd rather be a daddy than a cherry popper.
Also, now I am a middle-aged man, so I realized those were all those people in that band were like 23.
Yeah. They didn't know anybody.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here.
One of my favorite snacks, and probably yours, especially if there's a platter out, a deli platter, maybe you're at a funeral or something.
Yeah, I love a platter.
Is cherry tomatoes, and I will pop those. Maybe that's what they were talking about.
Cherry tomato, you have to do the whole thing in the mouth before you bite down.
That's true. Don't take
Sometimes you're like, you know what? I could do it. No.
If you want to blind 7 people around you, that's when you bite halfway through the tomato. That's when you pop that cherry. Greg, thank you so much for covering for all the lazy assholes that are on the show.
No problem. You know what? I'm also suffering a medical emergency. I'm just not even going to bring it up. No big deal.
But are your nipples going to stay in the same place, or is that an eventual
They're always moving around, but I try to stay out of it.
I've noticed that your nipples like to do the dance the worm just across your body.
Yeah.
That's cool. So because Greg's here, he's doing us this huge favor, but when we asked him to cover Spider-Man the Animated Series, he simply said...
I said no.
No.
Yeah.
So we're going to get back to that next week. Because I say, if you're the guest, you get you get to make some decisions, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I didn't watch it when I was 13 years old, I don't see why I'm going to watch it now.
I think that makes sense. You don't think torture is funny, like torturing yourself is, right? You don't see the joy in that like we do.
No, yeah. It is. It's kind of like, it's an interesting thing to do because I don't mean this in a bad way, but like sort of absurd. You know, like those episodes were not designed to be watched in the manner which you're watching them.
Yes.
And that is what makes it interesting because it is that friction between like what the content is meant to do and how you're approaching it that I think is interesting.
I almost wonder if it was the original second screening, you know, like there were no iPhones, but you had toys or
it was
Nintendo or something else.
I guarantee, like the way, the quality of the animation, it's like, well, they're going to be looking away at this part anyway. So, and that's how I watched a lot of those cartoons. I didn't do a ton of the Spider-Man, but like that's how I did a lot of those cartoons. You just kind of like barely paid attention when one character punched another character.
Right. It's the same way I used to watch baseball is you listen for an action sound and then you look up from your book or whatever to enjoy the game for 1 second. Well, this intro went way too long. Another Greg decision. He said, no Spider-Man,
Long intro. Yeah. That is such a Greg move. I'm like, okay, I will do this show, but every segment's running long.
So next week, and I'll say this again at the end of the show, we're going to cover Kite Man and Hit Monkey better. We will get back to Spider-Man, but for tonight, for one night only, the second finale of The Adventures of Superman. This is it, the second season finale of My Adventures with Superman. Everything is coming to a head. Brainiac is about to destroy the planet. We're sitting there watching, being like, oh, this is over. Show's over. Character's dead.
Yeah.
Our planet probably over because nothing's going to stop Brainiac. I mean,
at least Metropolis. Because he's like kind of posted up right above Metropolis. So you're like, well, this city's gone for sure.
And the cool thing is that everybody in Metropolis's loved ones are in Metropolis.
Yeah.
So wipe that out. You kill everybody that you care about. How nervous were you at this point?
Honestly, just based on the size of the ship and the armament, Brainiac brought a lot to the fight. Missiles that go all jaggy all over the place, but hit whatever they're targeting on. Big ship right over Metropolis. Probably with my suspension of disbelief, I was a little worried. Because I mean, like, okay, are they on this kid's cartoon? Are they really going to destroy the planet? Probably not. But that might be a cool season of Spider-Man, of Superman. He has to go to find some way to resurrect Earth or something like that.
Which is just fly the opposite way of gravity.
Yes. I think we all remember that completely rewinds time.
I know that you've been in and out all season, but I'm glad to have you here for the finale because the first thing I want to talk about is Brainiac and kind of Kara as enemies. Like, did they bring it's really hard to write a Superman bad guy, or people say it because he's so powerful, and then you send the toy man up against him, and you know, there's that imbalance. What did you think about Brainiac as like his power, and then just him as his personality? Well,
first of all, not underpowered. You know, they really play up I'm the last Kryptonian. Like he feels very much on their level, except for maybe smarter. I feel like he chose a name that indicates that he's smarter, but like he doesn't do a ton of outsmarting them. Really, it's mostly just like, I brought a bunch of missiles. Like, oh,
that's smart.
Yeah, no, that is smart, I guess. Yeah, but I thought that the leaning on the fact that he's the last Kryptonian, and that Kara is like way more Kryptonian than human seeming, and then Superman is like seems almost entirely human, and like almost we forget that he's Kryptonian. I thought those 3 points made for a very interesting episode in terms of, because like, she's so hardcore, and because she's being sort of like controlled by Brainiac, you're invited to think sometimes that, oh yeah, he's making her this way. But she's super competitive, a little aggressive, very strong-willed, and you see that sort of like the feudal nature of Krypton, which episode is a big reminder that there is a tremendous amount of Superman lore that extends so far back into the past of his planet. But part of it is the House of L or whatever. And I thought it leaned on all that very interestingly. I never felt at any point like Brainiac, they're going to walk up and punch him and that's going to just end the fight. I mean, the very last thing that happens is he jumps out of his own ship with a huge Kryptonian sword. Love the way the show is just like, it runs by the same rules that a lot of D&D groups do, which is like the rule of cool. If you can think of something awesome that happens, probably you'll get away with it if it's awesome enough. And this show very much leans on like, wait, why didn't he bring out the big Kryptonian sword earlier? Dude,
yeah,
he has a Kryptonian. Just please.
Well, there's 2 points in this episode where, and many points throughout the season, where Brainiac's like, all right, fine, Eradicator mode. And like, but has that button been there the entire time?
He's such a ham, though, because it's like,
he needs the right moment.
He keeps like saying like, okay, Black Mesa Protocol, but then he hits a red button and a bunch of missiles come out. Yeah. He's like, Dawn Eclipse Horizon, and then he hits a button and then like a green laser comes out. It's like, these are not plans. These are just like, you're just firing your weapons.
But he has to say it in a certain way, like Doom and Kang and my favorite villains of all time. Do you remember that rule in like that movie rule in Roger Rabbit, where Roger Rabbit can do whatever he wants, but it has to be funny.
Yeah.
It has to be the punchline to a joke. He
can't just take out a katana.
Right, exactly. It must be like he has to wait for this moment and then deliver this like. And I do want to give it up to Michael Emerson. I don't know how much we've talked about him on the pod as Brainiac, just chewing up every line. He'll have single word lines.
How good is he? There's a couple times where you'll be like, "Is this Alan Tudyk?" And that is like the
ultimate
biggest compliment you can pay somebody. It's not. It's that guy from Lost.
Yeah. Let's get into the animation style because I haven't had you on the show before to actually talk about it. Do you think this is doing a good job representing other forms of animation? Is it copying? Is it making fun of? Like, is it paying homage to?
I would say it's a hybridized, anime-inflected style of art. I'm far from any sort of expert, but DC Animation has had its eye on anime for a long time. Like like one of the first shows I can remember that did this kind of like fusion thing is Teen Titans, and they were at times, I don't know, like straight anime, like characters like having emojis when they react to things. And this show doesn't go quite as far as that, but certainly it picks up all the cool elements. Everything's very cinematic. Costumes are not necessarily like what's the most practical costume, but instead what's like the coolest costume. I love Kara's, like, she's got the biggest shoulder pads I've seen. We're doing movie of the year 1984 right now.
She'd fit right in.
She would fit right in. These things are a powerful shoulder pad, but like her costume basically looks like it comes straight out of Evangelion. Like, I mean, it's obviously like a kind of a direct shout out to those manga stylings of like too muchedness, but I don't know. It's very exciting, and I don't know why animation in the West would like turn up its nose at anime, especially because when you talk to kids, like there's a 1% chance they'll watch My Adventures with Superman and like a 99% chance that they watch Death Note, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan.
I mean, well, first of all, my question was, do you, and I'm so nervous about talking about this stuff because the emails, like, there's certain topics where people just come for you. But like, do you think anime has a similar D&D rule of cool thing in the writer's room?
Yes.
Okay. Number one. And number two, does this stuff feel like when we talk about My Adventures with Superman or the last year's Scott Pilgrim Saves the Universe or whatever it was, do you feel it like we want to jump on this bandwagon? I
really don't. I feel like we talk about how isolated different cultures are from each other, like in the media landscape primarily, not meaning that even like, you know, Japanese and American culture, but like that so much of entertainment is siloed. I think it's exciting that animation is this like sort of like you pick a couple styles, you mesh them together. But I mean, DC clearly is leaning into this the anime angle. I mean, the Harley Quinn show has elements of it, but then they just released like a Suicide Squad show that like
it's straight up.
It's not elements. Yeah. It's just I think it's a smart move, and it's exciting. It took me a while, I think, as like a Western animation observer of like the 80s and 90s to get used to anime. A lot of it was because it is so hot, like heavily stylized, but it won me over the way it won over like almost everybody.
And that, I mean, that's the thing too about something like My Adventures with Superman. It's less necessary than you would think, but because of how much it's shifted in animation preferences among the youth. But like My Adventures with Superman in the past would have been a launching pad into you watching more, you know, anime. Now, I don't think that's necessary.
And I mean, like this should be too. Like, go and watch the DC anime stuff, like the Ninja Batman. They're doing a sequel to that. The quality programs that DC Animation has are like limitless, and like not all of them are anime-ish, but some of them directly are.
If I am at a party and there's people talking about anime and somebody asks me, do you watch anime? And I'm like, hell yeah, I watch My Adventures with Superman. Should I say that?
See, I think that's when like I wouldn't say like, oh, I love,
and then block.
Yeah,
just block my face.
I wouldn't say. I mean, I wouldn't even say like Samurai Jack, which is like one of the early ones to just be like not using character IP, but just being like, this is basically going to be like anime. Even that, I mean, I would say if you're talking anime, you're talking like the Japanese stuff. Otherwise, it probably doesn't count.
What about Blue-Eyed Samurai? It's still American?
Yeah, honestly, this is when like, you know, these fine details are interesting to parse, but I don't think I'm the one that could decide. For me, like, It's not important to me that something get put in the it's correct category, but I think that's because I'm not enough of an anime fan. And
you don't talk to enough nerds. Like, it's very important to many people.
Yeah. And so, but I like Blue Eyed Samurai. Yes, because again, I think that's like about the meshing of two cultures. And it seems to be like very purposefully engaging with like actual anime for something that is supposed to like play in the East and in the West at the same time. Part of what like I would say keeps some of these things from being true anime is like I don't think my Adventures with Superman is meant for like really is like looking towards a Japanese audience. I think it's looking towards an American audience that appreciates Japanese cultural products. Also, this is a total digression, but my Adventures with Superman, who's my? Like, what's the implication there? Are we the viewer?
Okay, so clearly you don't listen to Superhero because we ask this question every episode.
Okay, so yeah. Or is it like Clark Kent?
I honestly think it's anybody, like it can be anybody in the episode, and I think it's mainly Lois, but the more that time goes on, I think that it is Clark.
Yeah, because like, I would say in a way that I guess some Superman products have done, but I feel like this one does very well, is like, Superman seems like a completely different person than Clark Kent in this. Like, they did a really good job picking like a dweeby voice.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard not to have like a Superman who talks from his chest, you know? But he shouldn't. He should sound like a huge dweeb.
The voice of this Superman and Clark Kent is Jack Quaid. Is he now the weirdest Quaid?
Oh, wow. That's Baby Quaid?
Yeah.
You know, I feel bad for him that he's trying to come up. Well,
his dad and his uncle.
His uncle is actively like militia level kooky, and his dad is like clearly dipping a toe.
Yeah,
you know, just wants to like see what it's going to be like, and he's like trying to have a career here, trying to be a nepo baby, and you're taking away the one thing that I had, which was this last name.
I'm the star of the boys, Dad. You give more money to Trump than anybody else, and are Reagan in the movie Reagan. So Thanksgivings are probably weird, or maybe they just figured it out, like how not to make it weird.
Maybe they probably just talk about money and Hollywood stuff.
There is something about the animation here that the animation's part of it, but the writing and the acting obviously too. That this show might get what I believe Superman to be more than any other franchise or iteration that I have ever seen. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Well, one thing is like it doesn't seem shy of how strong he is. And it doesn't seem like it's going out of its way constantly to like figure that out. They just let him be Superman. And like he takes a walloping in this episode. It's never clear that he's hurt for more than a second. And the show doesn't go like, this is a problem here. Like, what's the conflict? And so I think leaning into the fact that he's so strong. And then the thing is like, he could probably snap Kara's neck in a second.
Right.
But then the struggle is, how do I keep her from hurting me and herself and metropolites here, and then that becomes compelling. And so I felt like that, and the fact that it's animated, like it's just very hard to do a live action Superman. He's
because of the earnestness, you know, like,
and because he spent so much of the time flying at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's like that never works live action the way we take it for granted in a cartoon.
The way that I would do it is film him standing there and then move him. So now he's gone. And just have everybody around being like, damn, he flew away really fast.
That was so fast.
Did you see how fast that was? No, you didn't see because it's so fast. But like, I agree with the animated Superman in the powers thing, but also I think that when you have real actors with like in their faces on camera say these lines, it gets hokey. And I think that there's so many Superman writers of all forms of media that are scared of the earnestness, are like they want to make fun of him. They want other characters in the script to make fun of him, or they, as the writer, director, whoever, want to find ways to make fun of him from the inside, like in meta or ways. I think that because of the animation style, because of the voice cast that I think is incredible, not that they're giving Oscar-worthy performances, but they all fucking get it. They get like, this is a happy show.
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest foils, I think, on this show, it turns out to be Superman and Lois, because Lois will sneak in after hours to somewhere to get the story. She will fudge stuff, you know, and it's not just saving the day for Superman. It's doing it in the right way and then making sure everybody knows that it was in the right way and the right way can win.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that this show does that perfectly. Zack Snyder would hate the show is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that we don't have to, for modern sensibilities, have an arch perspective on Superman.
Right.
That has to be ironic or that he has to be dark. Yeah, like, and I think that there's something refreshing and nice about that, and something that we like cry out for in a way. We want Superman to be uncomplicated,
right,
and purely good, because we believe that he's supposed to represent a spirit that even if that we fail, right, that we as individuals in our own American history fail this spirit, but that here it is in this form, it is pure somewhere, you know. And it's like the same thing as I think is like patriotism. It became like patriotism was either something you were ironically making fun of or that the wrong type of people manifested. But as a pure force, I don't think there's anything wrong with patriotism, right?
No, I never expected to, at this point in my life, drive around and when I see an American flag in somebody's yard, know that they're the enemy.
Yeah.
Right? That's
a weird feeling,
yeah,
right?
That's fucked up.
And so I think it's that same thing, which is that, like, you know, we can have that pure relationship with something as an ideal, knowing that because it's an ideal, it doesn't actually exist. You know, like if Superman existed, he would be the complicated figure of the Snyderverse or whatever, or dark, or, you know. But since he doesn't, since it's a dream and a fantasy anyway, can't we have him be whatever the American spirit is supposed to be, and that we have constantly failed? He can still be it and show us that, like, it is something that could exist, or this is what it would look like if it did, at least.
I feel that the last 15, 20 years of comic books, the most memorable Superman stories have been Superman offshoots or like mock-ups that have him go bad, or, you know, he breaks
like
bad.
Red Sun, or he disappears for a long period of time, like in Dark Knight.
Yeah, exactly. Or like if Superman was being made as a TV show in the, like, during peak TV, we'd get like half an episode of Superman, and then the writer would get up and like go home and just like, what is it like to deal with Superman? And we would have to take some angle that couldn't just be Superman's adventures, you know?
Yeah. Or like we get half an episode with Superman because then it's like we have to move him off screen. And like the Marvel universe has this problem with Captain Marvel. Like they obviously love her and she's exciting on screen. Maybe has a complicated history with like how the fans interact with her, but the number one problem is they make her so strong that they're like, shit, we gotta get rid of this chick. She's fighting crime elsewhere. We're not gonna show you that either, but she can't be around here right now because she punches too hard.
Why not just one cut to of her on the planet that like is a planet inhabited by other planets? And she's like, fuck, man, this is so hard.
I'm so busy.
Last thing that we get to before we get out, we talked about Supergirl before, but Superman is so hard to write. I think Supergirl in a lot of ways is harder because she always has to be like even softer, and you know, you don't want to make her a Mary Sue, or you don't want to make her, you know, any of the bad names that come with girl characters. And this final scene of this episode I fucking love, because basically he gets her back to Smallville. She wakes up in bed, mom and pop are there, so excited to have another super baby. You know, they're like, oh, we're gonna raise the shit out of this one too. And then they go out and play catch.
Gotta get this one soup right away.
And Clark and Kara go out to play catch, and she's confused because she doesn't know how you win at catch. And
is determined to win at catch.
Right. That means, Clark, you're playing it wrong and I'm gonna win it. And to give Kara that much personality of just like, I'm edgy and like not in a corny way, but like I want to win. I want to figure out the strategy, whatever. I'm bored by this pish posh bullshit. On top of that personality, it's now up to us or the writers to figure out how much is nature and how much is nurture from Brainiac, right? How she was raised. I'm very stoked to have this. I hope this person is on the team next year.
But also it shows us another thing, which is that Superman. This is so cheesy, but like, remember in Kill Bill Volume 2, Bill argues that Superman is like, Clark Kent is the ultimate insult to us because he obviously thinks that we're little shitty dweebs, and so he's basically pissing on us anytime he acts like Clark Kent.
He doesn't have to trip and drop his files, but he does to like, look more human. But
the truth of the matter is, Superman's number one power is his pure spirit, and that's not Kryptonian. That's not like... It's not even really American, although I think it's kind of supposed to be. It is, he's got the Jesus spirit. Like, he does have that. Like, he's purely good, in addition to being an alien who's powered up by our sun and all this other stuff. And like, it has nothing to do with where he came from or where he is now. He just is that thing. And Kara reminds us of that. And she reminds us like what Krypton was like, which is like kind of a battle world. And that the people that came out of that were super hard. And some of them were like Brainiac. They're hard and evil. Some of them are like Kara. They're good, but they're still like hard and tough. And some of them are Clark Kent, who like comes from that, but was not raised there. And so doesn't have that edge to him while still having like sort of the powers, doesn't have the personality.
Right. There's a right and there's a wrong. And that's all Ma and Pa were about, is instilling that. And on Krypton, if you were to step up and say, like, hey, kindness, if we just use, you'd be assassinated immediately.
Yeah. They would suplex you to death.
Did you think it was weird when Kara said at the end in the game of catch, if you play the game of catch, you win or you die?
Yeah. I mean, well, if you're two super beings, if, like, they're playing catch, either they catch the ball, because he throws it to her, there's a little mustard on the hot dog right away, and she has just said, I'm going to beat you at catch, and if someone really zings it in there, the next person's going to zing it back. Like, imagine he looks away for a split second, although time must travel so weird for Superman, everything must be moving so slowly all the time, but he gets distracted, Ma Kent's like, soup. He looks to the side, and this ball rockets by at light speed and takes out like a bus or something. I mean, you got to watch out.
Well, that's also how they save people, by putting them at the point of death.
They create the problem and then come in and save it. Classic superhero.
My Adventures with Superman is on HBO Max. Both of the first two seasons are up right now. I highly recommend them. Greg, what do you think?
Oh, I highly recommend it. The one thing I will say is it felt like there were moments at the end of this season 2 where they were like, we're not sure, folks. Like, we could maybe do something in the future, but maybe this is the end of the road for us. I think all of these, especially the animated shows, are just like, we'd love to have jobs next season.
That's why when HBO Max or whoever, I'll take an Amazon deal when they come up to me, I need 5 years. Not 6, not 4. Like, I just want my 5 years to tell my story, and then I'm out, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be doing this every season with them.
It's too much.
Doing this dance, yeah.
Too much. But yeah, highly recommended, I would say.
That is going to be the show for this week. Next week, we're going to focus more on Hitman and Kite Monkey.
Kite Monkey!
Hell yeah. No, not the Richard Linklater movie Hitman, and not the made-up thing that I just made up, Kite Monkey, but it's actually Hit Monkey and Kite Man. Hell yeah.
Ryan, no excuses. I want to see Kite Monkey.
Well, I'll show you my Kite Monkey right now.
A monkey that has a kite, but is like not super great at flying around on it.
We're also going to get me and Mike's talk about Deadpool and Wolverine. Greg, without spoilers, you got like your 1 or 2, 3 sentence review?
Your impressions of the movie, what you imagine it's going to be like before you go in, that's what it's going to be like. You're probably thinking to yourself, a lot of it's going to be dead weight, but there's probably 3 or 4 moments that I'm glad I showed up for. I think that, like, set your expectations to Deadpool.
It's like right before you do mushrooms.
Yeah.
Be happy.
Yeah.
It'll be happy.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a very mood-dependent movie. We had a little bit of a dead house, I thought.
Yes.
Especially there were some moments that were obviously supposed to be zingers, like tags for applause, or there was a part that made you and me laugh for a very long time as the only 2 people in the audience, like laughing or reacting in any way at all. But we laughed very hard for a very long time.
Did we do the thing that I've had in every Deadpool movie theater experience, which is the theater and us were opposite laughing every time?
Honestly, yes, because any of the really groaner jokes we would have no reaction to, and like the people were just like, oh, that's so dirty. He just said the most filthy thing. But I am a semi-enthusiastic thumbs up. I think you know what this movie is going to be like, America, and I think you know if you want to go see it or not, and you'll definitely get 3 or 4 moments where you're like, and they won't even be my moments. That's the thing. That's what the audience showed me.
Exactly.
That they had that, and I think that's Ryan Reynolds. I think there is a subtle genius to the fact that everyone goes watches his movies and laughs at half the jokes, but it's a different half for everybody, and he manages to serve everybody in the audience, and that's just not easy to do. It's so hard to make comedy and not be highfalutin about it. And he is just an expert at just like, there's jokes in here for everybody. I promise, even if you are dumb, anti-humor idiots, there's jokes in Deadpool for you, because I listened to people laugh at them last night.
I don't want to ruin any cameos, but when Michael Keaton Batman and George Clooney Batman and Val Kilmer Batman and Robert Pattinson Batman
And
Christian
Ezra
Bale
Miller
Batman.
cwhen it
And
was
Ezra Miller.
clear that they didn't want him to.
Right.
And there was like an obvious security guard trying to escort him off the set.
Hit the ropes, buddy. When all of the Batman humans centipeded, was that a surprise?
That honestly, you don't expect that. You know, I think that's from Longest Halloween 2. And not a lot of people have read that, so you don't expect it.
As always, we are brought to you by cybersprout.net. Their design experts are well-versed in digital strategy and elegant design, combining the two masterfully. Cybersprout is your partner for the digital world. If you are thinking about starting a website or if your website needs some work, please go to cybersprout.net. Incredible prices, incredible people, incredibles too. They'll send you a DVD for free. If you want to know where you can find us online, go to popfilter.co. That's where you can find all of our websites and shit. We do make another show, Greg.
Yes, we do.
Remember that name of that podcast?
It is Movie of the Year. For half a second, my mind went totally blank.
It is This American
I was
Life.
like, it is superhero shows. Nope, no big guy. That's not it at all.
You've been superhero pilled.
Movie of the Year, Ryan, where we talk about the best movies of any given year. We are coming to the conclusion of 1984, and it's been a stellar season. It's been a magical, wonderful season, and it's sad to think that it's passing.
Yeah, you talked to the board today about adding 16 more weeks to the season.
I did it, yeah. I did it as a joke. I was like, wouldn't this... I said the silliest... Could you even imagine? This is what somebody would say if they were, like, pranking you. But what if we just did a couple bonus episodes? Because there's, like, 8 movies that I still want to watch.
On that show, if you have not listened, you should, and you're being an idiot if you don't. We started off doing 8 movies per season.
Yeah.
And now we're at 16. And I'm nervous that at some point, like, let's say we do 2004, which we've done, but whatever. And the first week of January, or whatever year we do the first week of January in 2004 and just do all 52 weeks of the year.
Do all the movies.
Just do every movie.
Movies of the year.
But we'll see if that happens. Tune in to see if it does, and mostly tune in to hear some incredible guests. We've had incredible guests all year. Everybody's telling me that they're incredible guests. All of the guests told me that they are incredible guests, so I appreciate that.
Honestly, you tell people the name of the guest, and they're like, okay. And then you tell the name of the thing that they're from, and they're like, okay.
Yeah.
Usually I was like, well, it's the guy that wrote the book on Siskel and Ebert. Oh, okay. Yeah, she writes for the LA Times. Oh, okay. You're right.
Yeah, we don't know names anymore, but we've had the critic from the LA Times. We have had the writer, like literally the person who wrote the book on Siskel and Ebert. Julie Cooper, Melinda Clark from the OC, Adam Kempenaar from Film Spotting, and so many. Nate Regolia from Debut Buddies. What was his movie? Gremlins.
Yeah,
incredible guest. Love that guy.
Yeah, very fun.
If you're listening, Nate, that's not true. If you are on social media, please follow us at Your Pop Filter on Instagram. Please make sure you follow us. We're at Pop Filter Co. on YouTube. I wish all of these were the same. I feel like that's the way to do social media, is just to make all of these the same. But on YouTube, you can watch these shows because there will be audio and a black screen, and that is watching. And then obviously email us at contact at popfilter.co.
Come on, man.
Here we go. I'm going to do it one more time. Contact at popfilter.co. Send us an email about whatever you're thinking. Did we not cover Hit Monkey enough this week? Send us an email. I think that inarguably we didn't cover it.
Yeah, no, I mean... Right,
we didn't. At all, so.
I guess we could have said negative things about it. You know, taking information about Hit Monkey out of people's brains. Who do you think? Do you construct a listener who is like, oh God, I got to listen to this podcast because I hear what they say about Hit Monkey, and then like listen to the whole episode? It's like, what the fuck?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that is like you just described the brain of every podcaster. Next week, as I said, we're going to go over Deadpool and Wolverine, plus new episodes of Hit Monkey, Kite Man, Hell Yeah, and maybe Snowpiercer. We'll see. For Greg, I'm Ryan, and as always, enough said.